Okay, breathing room. A big sigh of relief here because we had ourselves a bunch of Jacob Trouba trade talk we had to make videos about. There was a Montreal Canadiens and an Oilers trade that we had to talk about. And now, because there is actual space in the timeline, let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks. So the Canucks do have themselves a game later on today against the Columbus Blue Jackets. 7 p.m. PST start. It is in Vancouver. And the big piece about this game that everybody is talking about, aside from, of course, the top scorers of both of these teams being defensemen in the past few games, is the fact that Thatcher Demko is back, baby. Thatcher the Snatcher is the backup, Rick Tocchet confirms. Kevin Lankinen gets the start. Artur Shilovs gets the spot in the press box. It sounds like the club will utilize the same lineup they finished the game with in Minnesota this week, but with Max Sasson playing center. And this is a really good move to put Thatcher Demko in as a backup rather than thrusting him to the Wolves right away. Who knows, man? It's Columbus. They're not a great team. If the Canucks are winning, let's say 4-1 or 5-1 at the end of, let's say, the second period, maybe Thatcher Demko even gets the third. Maybe if the Canucks are in a pretty comfortable spot with 10 minutes to go in the last period, maybe Thatcher Demko gets a few minutes here and there. Maybe he gets the warm-up. Maybe he gets a little bit more. There's a lot going on here for Vancouver that is positive in regards to Thatcher the Snatcher's development and return. Think about it. Kevin Lankinen has been one of the best goalies in the NHL this year. If you go over to the statistics, is he still near the top of the save percentage list? No, okay, he's not. Yeah, unfortunately, he's no longer there, but if we go over to the all leaders section, we should scroll down and find Kevin Lankinen. There you go, 906 save percentage, 23rd overall in the National Hockey League. That number was a little bit better recently, but if you go over to Kevin Lankinen's overall statistical breakdown, you can see that there were a few games in there that decreased his save percentage over the past little while here. Yeah, 897 against Mini, 871 against Detroit, but then before that, I mean, the shutout against Boston, the 912 against Buffalo, there were a few 800 games in here sprinkled in with that shutout. 966 though against the Calgary Flames, 929 against the LA Kings. Kevin Lankinen has been very, very solid this year for the Vancouver Canucks, particularly on the road. That's where he has excelled the most. But he is getting this home game against Columbus. Let's see, though. If Kevin Lankinen continues his struggles at home, maybe we do see Thatcher Demko play a little bit earlier than usual. However, this is not the only piece of Vancouver Canucks news that we have on the chopping block today, because the Canucks made some roster moves that a lot of people, myself included, were a little bit confused about at first. GM Patrik Allvin announced today that Jonathan Lekkerimaki and Cole McWard have been assigned to Abbotsford. The question then is asked, so they got called up and the Canucks wasted a day of accrued cap space? Check out Vancouver Canucks news summaries. He has a great news explanation as to why it's beneficial. It helps them maximize their LTIR in case they need it by the deadline. And if you go over to Vancouver Canucks news summaries, you can see this very particular piece of information. Where is it? Let's scroll down here. Here it is. Like myself and others said yesterday, the recalls to Lekkerimaki and McWard from yesterday were about setting the Canucks' LTIR and performance bonus pools. The Canucks are going back to accruing cap space today. Yes, that is even with Filip Hronek on the LTIR. And to help us out even further, there was a comment thread made on the R Canucks sub. This entire thing was posted by Paper Moonshine. Canucks GM Patrik Allvin announced that Lekkerimaki and McWard are assigned to Abbotsford, and the top reply says, okay, now I'm confused. They were called up to get us close to the cap ceiling. They're $8,000 away before putting Hronek on the LTIR. Doing that means that the Canucks' effective cap ceiling is $87,992,000 rather than $88 million. So if the Canucks get their roster cap hit below $87,992,000, the Canucks will accrue cap space again. If they had just placed Hronek on the LTIR without calling those guys up first, their cap ceiling would be significantly lower, and the Canucks would have to stay below it to accrue cap space. And so this is masterful from Patrik Allvin and Emilie Castonguay, calling up some guys to hang out on the Vancouver Canucks roster for a day to be like, okay, now that Filip Hronek is being placed on the LTIR retroactive to November 27th, because that transaction was made, having more bodies on the roster will give the Canucks a higher effective cap ceiling, which would mean that they can accrue cap space easier by getting closer to that dollar amount. I mean, it's kind of wonderful work here. Having this move benefits everybody. Giving the Vancouver Canucks a day's worth of Lekkerimaki and McWard on the roster allows them to accrue cap space better, and it gives these two guys 1 day's worth of NHL salary. As we've been speaking about this entire time, NHL salary is like 10 times the amount of AHL salary, so when you're making, let's say, $30 or $40 a day in the AHL, if you're in the NHL, that number jumps up to $400 or $500. It's a lot. So it's a pretty big pay raise for a bunch of guys who have been working really hard in Abbotsford. Sure, while I didn't think it was possible that McWard would have gotten a game, we had said that in yesterday's video as well, Lekkerimaki was in a different spot, and I guess because of Lekkerimaki's progression so far in Abbotsford, this doesn't really surprise me. I mean, we did speak about this yesterday in the video as well, but Lekkerimaki was really good with the Abby Canucks in his first stint at the beginning of the season. I mean, look at the numbers here. Assist against the San Diego Gulls, a goal against Tucson, another goal against Tucson, assist against San Diego, 2 goals against San Diego, and then a goal against the Ontario Reign. He was scoring a lot of points in his first stint in the AHL. Then he got called up, had a goal in 5 games with Vancouver, and then got sent down, only has had a goal in 5 games with Abby since. So I guess you don't necessarily want to reward poor play, so for Vancouver to have Lekkerimaki up for a day and then send him back down, I guess it makes sense. I mean, we spoke yesterday about, okay, if Vancouver just believes that there's more than meets the eye to Lekkerimaki, if they think that he's got more to show for, they want to rotate him into the lineup because they've got a lot of forward spots that are rotating around, then okay, makes sense, but sending him back down, that makes sense too, especially when you consider the idea that the Canucks only called these guys up in the first place in order to maximize their effective cap ceiling. Let's just read this again one more time to fully internalize it. The Canucks called up Lekkerimaki and McWard to get the team closer to the cap ceiling before putting Hronek on the LTIR. Doing that means their effective cap ceiling is $87,992,000 rather than $88 million. So if the Canucks get their roster cap hit below $87 million, they will accrue cap space again. If they had just placed Hronek on the LTR without calling all those guys up first, their cap ceiling would be significantly lower, and they would have to stay below it to accrue cap space. So there's more flexibility here. Having the cap ceiling raised allows them to accrue more space easily, which I'm going to attribute to Patrik Allvin and Emilie Castonguay for being the main cap shenanigan wizards behind that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Canucks bringing in Thatcher Demko once more into the roster. He is back, he is the backup, and the Canucks have done some really smart moves as well to help out their roster situation. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.